Hi there, my name is Dr. Julie Albright. I am a digital sociologist at the University of Southern California. I'm also the author of the recent book, Left to Their Own Devices, How Digital Natives Are Reshaping the American Dream. It was recently chosen as a Bloomberg Top 30 Book of the Year. So, some people are asking me, how did you get into this whole world of looking at digital technologies? I started out with a degree in counseling, where I was a marriage and family therapist practicing down in Florida, and I started seeing people meeting and dating on the internet. And I told my dad, this is going to be huge. And he looked at words scrolling up on a screen and he said, why would anybody ever want to do that? But I knew it was going to be gigantic. So I came to USC to follow my dream of studying this further, which I've done. I ended up doing the largest study ever done on this topic for Elle magazine with MSNBC.com. It was on the cover of Elle, and ended up working with eHarmony, helping to develop some of their product and doing research with them. So as I've gone forward, this idea of understanding the interaction between the social, the behavioral, and technology is becoming more important all the time. If you go out on any street corner now, you're going to see people on cell phones, with heads bent down, connecting on various apps. We have smart homes where our homes are talking to the internet, for example, and our cars. You look at Teslas and their self-driving cars. It's really been an explosion of the people and things that we're connecting to the internet. So this is going on a global scale as we build out digital infrastructure. So this topic is just going to become more important, and it's going to start to change the dynamics globally over time. My next book is going to start looking at that topic, the idea that as we connect everybody, how does that change the geopolitical dance? How does that change economic situations, social behaviors on a global scale? My co-author for the next book, which is going to be called The Cloud Machine, is Mr. Dean Nelson. He ran the digital networks for Uber and eBay and PayPal and others, and he's a real rock star in the digital infrastructure and data center arena. So between a digital sociologist and a rock star technologist, we're going to really open the doors for people to see what's behind the apps they use every day and what it means when we connect everybody on a global scale. So you've asked me to think about what it means to be successful in life and how you get there. And I think really the cornerstone of success is integrity, for me anyway. The idea that you do what you say. The idea that people can count on you. My mentor, we wrote a grant together, by the way, around energy and behavior and digital technologies for the Department of Energy. It was a $121 million grant, which we won. And someone from Caltech asked him, well, what about this Julie? Can we count on her? And he said to this woman, she's as regular as the rain, which I think is an amazing compliment. So this idea that you can be counted on, that when you say something, you do it. This is one of the set of practices, I think, or habits of successful people. I think it's important to be optimistic. Sometimes life hits you pretty hard. You get thrown off track or blown off your course, and you have to just keep on moving forward and be persistent in your goals. And having goals and strategizing toward those goals is also very important. I keep a list of goals. Some are short-term, like buy milk at the store, and some are longer-term, where I'm working on my next book or book chapter, or I want to interview somebody, or the things that I need to get done. So I've got this evolving list going on about that. So I think really cultivating a series of habits toward being successful is important for particularly young people to begin to cultivate these kinds of habits towards success. It's not an accident. In other words, when people get successful, become successful, a lot of those overnight successes took many years to get there. So I think that's the last piece, is you need to be patient. Sometimes it takes longer than you think to become successful. So since I began studying the internet and behavior and things like that, obviously it's changed the world. I would argue that it's had more impact than the impact of the printing press or the Industrial Revolution. It's had a broader swath of impacts and a deeper impact in terms of ourselves, our behaviors, our social structures, the way our economy and our business goes. If you look at what the biggest companies are in the world now, for example, there are things like the Facebooks and Twitters and all. So it's really reshaped the dynamics of our world, and will continue to do so as we see people bringing infrastructure into sub-Saharan Africa, for example. Google is working on a project called Loon, where they're bringing balloons to bring internet into the deepest areas of the Amazon rainforest. We've got Elon Musk, who's putting up artificial stars in the sky so people can connect anywhere in the world to the internet. And these are going to continue to bring about the kinds of changes I've been exploring in my work over time. Now, one of the cornerstones of my book is the idea that digital technologies have meant that a generation that have grown up with them have sort of come untethered, I call it. And this is the idea that young digital natives, mainly millennials at this point, have unhooked from many of the traditional markers of success, you could call them, or what I call shorthand the American dream. They're not buying that little house with the white picket fence anywhere near the numbers of their parents or grandparents. They're not getting married. They're not having children to the same degree. They're not doing things like going to church or joining a political party or the local Rotary or things like that. So this idea of coming untethered is combined also with the idea that they're hyper attached to digital technologies. Teenagers now, for example, say they're online almost constantly, and they're checking their phones in the middle of the night. The majority of millennials even sleep with their phones, so they never miss a text or a message or anything else. So what's happening now is, now that we're in this COVID pandemic, we're all suddenly living untethered, like it or not. And we're connecting using digital technologies via our phones, via our laptops or iPads or whatever it may be, to bring continuity to our work life, to our social life, and sometimes our spiritual life and things of that nature. So this idea that we're all now living untethered, and there's upsides to that and downsides to that. And so we're all sort of struggling with, you know, the notion of being disconnected suddenly from everyone in our lives, disconnected from the routines that we're used to. Many people are talking now about how time just seems to scroll onward endlessly. They're losing track of what time it is, or losing track of what day it is, because they don't have the routines marking their day, for example, of commuting to work, or starting their day, or going to lunch, or having that meeting on a particular cadence that they're used to. So it's really given an uproar to everyone that's trying to work remotely in this new, strange world that we find ourselves in. But you know, I think that we can find ways to reconnect. In this case, although there are downsides, things like loneliness and anxiety have been at a 30-year high for our college students, for example. And I've been concerned about that. And that's part of the reason I do the work that I do, so that we can find ways back to connecting with ourselves and with others, with our spirituality, with our bodies, and with nature. And not throw the baby out with the bathwater when we love to play online, play games, or connect and text and go on social media. But we still are embodied creatures, and we need to be together face to face. We need to be out in the sun. We need to be out in nature and connecting with each other in different ways. So hopefully we can bring some of that back and bring some balance to our lives between the digital connectivity and working and living and playing remotely. So I guess last but not least, you know, the idea is, you've asked me to talk about a time that was maybe hard for me, and I would say that I've always been sort of a trendsetter. As I've been talking about these ideas, people didn't quite know what I was talking about, and they look at me like, you know, what? But over time, the wave has caught up with my work in terms of now everybody sees how digital technologies, our smartphones, our connectivity is reshaping our lives for good and evil, you could say, and reshaping our communities, reshaping our nations, and reshaping our world, and that we want to have a better understanding on that. So this next book, as I said, I'm going to talk about a more global scale in terms of the changes that are going on, what's happening behind the scenes of our smartphones and our apps and all, so that we could really think through what this means for us on an individual level, what it means for the future of work and the workplace, what it means for our society and our world at large. So I look forward to the further conversations about that. And I hope you will join me in those when the time comes. Thank you so much, and I look forward to meeting and seeing some of you on the next book tour on the road, I'm sure. Thank you.